Everyone, good evening. My name is Leo Hayat. I'm the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I want to thank you all for joining us today on another event, or another briefing from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Today, we will change a little bit the format of the briefing, and we'll start with a statement by the Foreign Minister of the State of Israel, Mr. Eli Cohen, following by a briefing of the IDF spokesperson representative, and also the stories of two families. We know that the Foreign Minister of the State of Israel is extremely busy in those days, so without further ado, I will give the floor to Foreign Minister of the State of Israel, Mr. Eli Cohen.
Thank you. Thank you, Lior, and thank you all for joining us. Actually, this is the second week which we are speaking. In the previous time, the first day, we did not have the full picture. Since then, we visit a lot in the south with a few foreign ministers that join us. And we saw the massacre and the pictures, and we heard the stories that no words can describe the atrocities and the viciousness of the Hamas. I think that President Biden said that Hamas is worse than ISIS, and he's definitely right. I don't think that ISIS beheaded small children, binding their hands and cutting their heads, murdering entire family. Right now, we have more than 1,300 people that murdered, and approximately 200 people that took in hostage, and we are in a war. Let us have no doubt that Hamas will be defeated. Gaza will no longer be a threat for Israel and for anyone else. We will not agree that the Hamas will have any power in Gaza or in any other place. No human can comprehend the barbarity of torturing babies, murdering pregnant women, and even taking out the baby before he's born, killing Holocaust survivors. We cannot call them inhuman or animals, because even animals don't act like this. The only definitions is monsters. We will overcome, and our late Prime Minister Golda Meir used to say that we have a secret weapon, which is that we don't have any other countries. Therefore, we must win for our homeland, but we are not fighting just for Israel. We are fighting for the entire free world. Terror is exactly like cancer. It's willing to spread. And if we will not stop it here, it will come to Paris, London, New York, and all other places as well. So far, we have eliminated more than 1,000 terrorists, among them senior terror commanders whose hands are covered with blood. Thousands of targets have been attacked, including terror base, a war machine that built under the reconstruction of Gaza and the humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. Hamas never cared about the people of Gaza. Hamas, which 83% of its budget is coming from Iran. Islamic Jihad, 100% of its budget coming from Iran. Hezbollah, in the north, more than 50% of its budget is coming for Iran. Their goal is to prevent peace in our area, to work for the escalation in our area, and to expand through terror and murder of innocent people. We saw that they care only to the destruction of Israel. Right now, they even don't care about the people of Gaza. They're using them as a human protection. We call upon the resident of the northern Gaza, leave your home now. Move south for your own safety. We, Israel, respect the international law. We will never target free civilian, children, family, never. This is not our way. But we attack all the places where the Hamas is hiding, in houses, in underground tunnel. Israelis enjoy a freedom of action and international legitimacy. Finally, the world understands who we face, who is the enemy. As Chancellor Scholz said, in this war, there is only one side to support. We did not start this war. They forced us to enter into this war. We accept the international community to support us as we fight Hamas and Islamic Jihad. We want more secure region for Israel, for the Palestinians as well, for the entire region. We will respect the guidelines of the international humanitarian law and take the maximum precaution in protecting innocent civilian population. As I mentioned, we are targeting Hamas, and we are focused only on them and their leaders. Israel's war is just a war. We are acting in a self-defense, eliminating threat and enemy who aims to kill and destroy us. We convey a very clear message to other terror organizations and all the Iranian proxies in our region. Israel is actually the last frontier of the West. If you would go east for us, you will not find any democracy till India. We actually surrounded by 3 Islamic caliphates, which the Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, and Hezbollah, as I mentioned, all of them are proxies of Iran in our region. After we attack, I want to clear that Israel will respond with all its power and means. In the foreign ministry, we are working day and night to ensure the international support and the solidarity for Israel will continue. Since this war, it will take time. There is a strong understanding internationally that Hamas need to have no power and no possibility of continuing, and we don't want to have any periodical cycle of violence. We would like, of course, to thanks to the United States President Biden, who's supposed to visit Israel tomorrow morning, Secretary Blinken. I just received right now Chancellor Scholz, who came to Israel, the Prime Minister of Romania, who've been here a few hours ago as well. We visit in the southern city with the Foreign Minister, cleverly from Britain, Colonna from France, Germany, Italy, Czech Republic. We have conversation with more than 40 different countries. I also would like to update you that I had even conversation with the Arab and Muslim countries, which they understand that Israel and those countries which we already have peace agreement, and probably country which we will have a peace agreement in the future, share the same threats of Iran and Islamic radical terror organization. Just remember that the ISIS was against mainly the Muslim population just a few years ago. And now Hamas, Jihad, and Hezbollah, they are against Israel. We mourn the loss of life, but we also committed to bring back all the hostages, part of them babies, 2 years old, 1 year old, 3 years old, 4 years old, mothers with their 2 children, sisters, entire family that took as a hostage, which is a criminal crime. I want once again to thank for the solidarity and support from, I will say that most of the entire free world, and we expect this support to continue over the difficult days ahead. I'm sure that you will see not easy picture from Gaza, but remember, there is only one who is responsible for this, is Hamas, who massacred more than 1,300 of our people, who brought disaster to the Palestinian population in Gaza for the last 18 years, which they are controlling them. So, as I mentioned, we are not fighting for Israel, but we are also fighting for the international community, for the human dignity. I'm sure that most of you saw the pictures, the movies, and what they did. Together, we will prevail. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. No, that's it. Okay. Thank you very much, Minister. And as I said, the minister's schedule is very busy. So in a few minutes he will leave. We will continue with the briefing of Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner from the IDF spokesperson unit. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lior. We are now in day 11 of our offensive against Hamas, destroying, degrading, and seeking out the leaders of the terrorist organization that launched the brutal massacre of our people on the Saturday, 7th of October. The IDF is currently engaged on 3 core components, still securing the area surrounding the Gaza area, making sure that the communities are no longer threatened by terrorists that potentially could still be in Israeli territory. The second component would be to rebuild and reconstruct the barrier itself, as it was destroyed in several places, over 20 points of infiltration. And we are currently doing that by increasing and bringing and rebuilding across the frontier. We've positioned many forces at different points of breach as well, and also physical barriers that will prevent easy infiltration, again, by terrorists that potentially could still come from the Gaza Strip. And of course, the potential escape of terrorists that may wish to move back to the Gaza Strip and escape to the Gaza Strip after conducting attacks against our people. The third component of our efforts are indeed focused on striking the terrorist infrastructure, the Hamas terrorist organization that has built its hub, its hub of terrorism in the heart of Hamas, in the heart of the Gaza Strip, in Gaza City. And indeed, we are striking them. We are striking the organization. We are striking its leaders. We are striking its all of its components of its system of terror, which has had built as part of the organization's role of an organization as a government that has become a government of a terrorist organization that empowers and utilizes all the powers of government in order to exert terrorism against our people. Indeed, we are continuing to strike the infrastructure of drones, the explosive-laden drones, in rocket launchers, terror tunnels, the leaders themselves, the terrorists themselves that perpetrated the attacks. And we are continuing to strike the individuals that were involved and the leaders that are behind the management, the recruiting, the equipping, and the funding of the terrorists that can perpetrating the atrocities against our people on the 7th of October. We have recruited some 300,000 reservists. They are on the ready, awaiting a green light for mobilization on the ground, if so instructed by the government. Indeed, the forces are undergoing training and equipping and getting their unit missions for how they are individually supposed to combat and destroy Hamas's capabilities to ever attack Israel again. Beyond the reality on the Gaza Strip, which is an ongoing effort, we have a parallel humanitarian effort, which is twofold. The first component is, of course, evacuating people from the north and sending them down south, asking them to evacuate for their own safety. It is a core component of our humanitarian mission in order to differentiate between non-combatants, the civilian population, and the terrorist organization itself. And that is a part of our responsibility of distinction, of military necessity, and of course, proportionality in the battlefield. We are continuing together with our colleagues in the Defense Ministry, the coordination of government activities in the territories to communicate and engage with the international humanitarian organizations that are operating on the ground. We are constantly in touch with them, and we know that there are supplies in the south that exist in order to facilitate the needs of the population that has evacuated to the south of Gaza. We are currently in a state of a concern for the humanitarian situation, but from our understanding, it can be met. Of course, the huge influx of people coming from the north and going to the south is a strain on the system there, and it needs to be dealt with. From our perspective, we are very focused on the terrorist activities and destroying the terrorist capabilities in the Gaza Strip so that they can never ever attack our people again. I would add that while the situation in the Gaza Strip is extremely volatile and hostile, that we've seen an increase in activities by Hezbollah on the northern border. Today, even more anti-tank missiles fired, guided missiles fired at our forces. There are casualties, and we are seeing a trend of escalation over the last few days on that front. We have forces pre-prepared amongst the reservists that have been recruited also to the northern front, the frontier with Lebanon, and that goes to say that Lebanon, the sovereign state of Lebanon, are responsible for all terrorism originating from within its territory. And our role is to continue to strike back when Hezbollah decides to attack us and exert a serious price from those that conduct the attacks against us. I would add that from our understanding, it is Iran that is interested in escalating the situation in order to challenge Israel, challenge the IDF and our activities in the south. And that is why they are using the Hezbollah terrorist organization to do so. I would warn Hezbollah to look very carefully. I would also warn the leaders of Lebanon to look very carefully how we are dismantling Hamas in the Gaza Strip, leader by leader, terrorist by terrorist, and indeed infrastructure by infrastructure. We will exert a serious price if they continue to threaten and attack Israel. Nevertheless, we are prepared to fight, if needs be, on two fronts. We have the ability to do so. We can do it on more fronts as well. And I suggest that Lebanon take control and prevent Hezbollah from continuing their attacks against our people. The IDF is continuing in its defensive capabilities as well, with a strong home front command that continues to operate in order to safeguard people. This is precisely what Israel does. On the border with Lebanon, we have instructed yesterday the evacuation of 28 communities across the border in a radius of or a distance from 2 kilometers from the border fence itself. We have asked the people and are evacuating all of the people from that area to keep people out of harm's way. The Home Front Command is issuing instructions to the civilian population every day in order to safeguard people's life. And as a note, for those of you that perhaps are here in Israel, if you have, you should download the app and also keep up to date with the instructions directed by the Home Front Command. As we look forward, we are preparing for a potential ground operation, awaiting a government decision. The troops will be prepared. We are taking the necessary steps in order to be prepared for a ground operation, including the ramifications of that and the challenges that it poses in mobilizing within the civilian arena. I'm happy to take questions at the response of Lior. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will take 2 questions for Peter now, and we'll move to the second part because Peter cannot stay with us. I see that Naomi raised their hand. Is that a question for Peter?
I was hoping to ask a question of Minister Cohen, if that's possible.
Well, the minister is no longer here. I can answer for him later on. Paul, do you have a question for the spokesperson of the IDF?
Yes, I do. Many thanks, Lior, and thank you for doing this, Lieutenant Colonel. A couple of questions, if I may. You talk about your concern for the humanitarian situation in southern Gaza, and you say that it's a strain on the system there. You seem to be having a rather different description of the situation there from the agencies that are on the ground, who are describing it as absolutely catastrophic. What do you know about the situation there that they do not? And secondly, when you get an opportunity, if it arises, to conduct an operation in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, when that is over, do you then turn your attention to the south, where the vast majority of the civilian population is now residing?
Thank you, Paul. It's not what I know. We know where we began, and we know the alternatives. The IDF is conducting operations. So the alternative for people not shifting to the south is a much worse situation where the IDF is conducting its operations in accordance with international humanitarian law and the laws of armed conflict in the understanding of distinction, military necessity to achieve our military goal, and finally the conditions of proportionality in the battlefield. Paul, I would say that we are currently, as I said, engaged with the international humanitarian organizations. We have a good grasp on what supplies exist in the south. We also are aware that UNRWA yesterday put out an announcement. The UN Relief Organization put out an announcement that Hamas had actually commandeered a huge stockload of fuel and also medical supplies. The fuel could have kept the water running in Gaza in the southern Gaza for 6 days. So the reality on the ground is mustn't be oversimplified, and I'm not oversimplifying it or belittling the humanitarian circumstances on the ground, but I am saying we are at war. This is not a tit-for-tat conflict like the past. It is a dire situation, and things are going to change. So we need to realize, and I would suggest that the statements the international organizations are saying and putting out need to be in the context of a war, not a limited conflict, but much broader scale conflict with a much, I would say, broader mission and goal that the government has given us. So, of course, the situation is going to be worse than it was in the past, but our mission is to differentiate, and that's why the people have been evacuated toward the south.
Thank you. Any more questions for the spokesperson of the Ministry of the IDF, Manish? Or, please, sorry. Please unmute yourself. Sorry. Manish, we can't hear you. Can you please try to Sorry. Okay, try again. No, unfortunately, we cannot hear you. Okay, so BTV, yes.
I hope you can hear me. Thank you for your time.
Yes, we can.
Do you have any information, trustworthy information regarding a Bulgarian citizen being taken as hostage by Hamas? It was breaking news from Wall Street Journal, and they quote officials, probably a female. Do you have any info about that? And how do you respond to the allegations by Human Rights Watch and also Amnesty International that the Israeli army is using white phosphorus against civilians? Thank you.
So I won't comment on the issue of the hostages and their nationalities. That's not information we are distributing. We are, except for the number of hostages that we are and have notified of 199 hostages. Other than that, I prefer not to speak about the hostages. Regarding the claims of white phosphorus, there is no, the IDF has made adjustments in its arsenal so that there are smoke rounds that are distributed that do not include white phosphorus. And I would say that even the use of white phosphorus is not unlawful in the laws of armed conflict and international humanitarian law. They just need to be used in a certain situation. I can't confirm that there has been any use of white phosphorus at this time. And the fact that an organization is saying, yes, this is based on this image or that image does not necessarily mean it's true. And I would be very highly skeptical in anything they're saying anyway. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to add to that. Both organizations you mentioned that are so-called human rights organizations are known anti-Israeli organization with anti-Semitic messages, and since they've said nothing about over 1,300 civilians that were murdered by Hamas terrorists, I think their credibility in this situation is zero. And if they want to call themselves human rights activists, they have to talk about human rights on both sides. Those are anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic organizations. And I don't have the time to elaborate on that. You can look for my name and the name of those organizations and Google, you'll find the full explanation of why I'm saying that. I want to thank now Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner for being with us, and we'll move to the third part of this press conference, and I'll invite Renana Gome to join us. Renana, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Leo, for having me.
Please tell us your story.
My name's Renana. I used to be a member of the communal community of Niros, which is just over the Gaza border, until 11 days ago. My children were at home at my place alone. It was their weekend with their father, and I was on another kibbutz nearby, another community, just 15 minutes drive, which was also attacked so far. 6:30 in the morning, we woke up to the red alert, which we're all unfortunately used to. And, you know, it was very scary, but I thought, okay, we can deal with it. I called my boys just to see, they're 12 and 16. I called them to see that they were in the safe room. One of them, it's his bedroom, so it was obviously there, but the other one was taken from his bed by his older brother, so he would be in the safe room. Time passed, and I was on the phone to them every few minutes to see they were all right. And at a certain point, they heard they started saying that they hear gunshots outside, and I was telling them, "Oh, it's the army, you know, defending you." I could hear gunshots outside the house I was in as well, so I realized it wasn't just another rocket attack like we're unfortunately used to. A couple of hours went by, and then I was on the phone to them as I heard them say that that someone breaking the door. I got texts from all over, other members of the community all over, saying that terrorists are walking around freely, trying to break into houses. I tried to get help to send them a neighbor or anything, but no one would go out because there were terrorists outside. Later, I found out there are 100 terrorists walking around freely, breaking into houses and taking people hostage. Around 9 o'clock, I could hear the door break. They were saying they were on the phone to me, and they said the door breaks. They could hear someone walking in. And I could hear people speaking in Arabic, and a few minutes later, the door to the safe room was unlocked, even though my eldest, my 16, held it very hard. I was told later that the handle of the door outside was broken. That's just to demonstrate how hard he was holding it. But there was no lock to those rooms, because safe rooms are supposed to be safe from rockets and missiles, not from terrorists walking in and taking you. They were taking in, and the door was broken, and I could hear my youngest, who was on the phone with me with his phone, saying, "Don't take me, I'm too young." And that was the last I've heard of him. Since Saturday, October 7th, I heard nothing. I know nothing of their whereabouts. I heard nothing of how they are, what they're doing, how they're held. Just no information whatsoever. And my message is to the world: we need the world to enlist to their release, their immediate release. Children, women, and elderly people were taken from my community, which is only 400 people. 80 people were taken hostage from the age of 6 months to the age of 86. People who needs medicine, people who needs taken care of. I don't see the point of holding hostages in that manner. I can't see how this could work. I'm sorry, I'm a bit emotional. I live in a community that believes in freedom, equality, and humanity. I always tell my children that the children of Gaza live a much worse life than they do. That we have running water, we have electricity, we have education. You know, we're human. And I always sympathize with the other side, because I believe that even when I see ads of Israel saying that they killed 14-year-old terrorists, it breaks my heart, because it's someone's child. Obviously, the other side doesn't see it that way. And if I thought until a week or so ago that I had neighbors that I could make peace with, I'm sorry, but I don't believe it anymore. This is inhumane. I'm sorry. You can't keep children, babies, women, and elderly people hostage. I want you to enlist to the effort to set them free now. And I'm sorry, but it seems like it gets off the agenda. Softly, but slowly, but no, this has to be the first thing on the agenda of the Israeli government and of foreign governments. And this is why I'm here. I'm here to ask you to help me do that. I think children on both sides are not supposed to be part of the war game. Children are not play cards. Bring them home now.
Thank you, Renana, so much for your words and your message in these tough days. The next speaker will be Shaili Atari. Shaili, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, yeah, I will read a moment. Okay. My name is Shaili Atari. My husband's name was Yavina, and he was murdered this week in Kibbutz Kfar Aza when he sacrificed his life for me and for our 1-month-old daughter, Shaya. But her name is a combination of our both names, Shaili Shah, Yav. Yav was a talented filmmaker and a dreamer. But the thing he really wanted in his life more than anything was to be a father. We were together for 10.5 years, and we waited for this baby for a long time. She was a miracle to us. It was early morning. Our green kibbutz was quiet, and Yav woke me up for my shift with Shaya. He told me that she would wake up and want to eat shortly. She didn't have time to wake up because suddenly a massive attack started. I ran to the safe room, which is our bedroom, and locked the iron door behind me. I was gasping for air, and he tried to figure out with his friends on the WhatsApp group what is going on. People started writing that they hear gunshots outside of their houses. And then we understood that there is an infiltration by terrorists. We suddenly realized that our dog Buckley is not in the safe room, and Yav wanted to go outside to get him. I was so scared to death, and I begged him not to leave the room, but he didn't listen to me. Yav opened the door and went to bring him inside. When he came with Buckley, he tried to calm me down and help me breathe. And I asked him, Mommy, are we going to die today? And he told me, we're not going to die today. Not long after, I remember voicing outside of the bedroom window as terrorists shout Ta'al, Ta'al, which I understand after it's come on. They told each other to come to the house to kill the people, and they said hello. They laughed, I remember. Yav and I switched to sign language. We tried to not make a sound, but we wordlessly concluded an agreement. It was, you're holding the door, I'm with the baby. Suddenly, they didn't came from the door, so suddenly the window was open. A hand came through the window and moved the iron rail of the safe room. It goes like this, and Yav pushed the iron rail against them. We didn't have time to say goodbye. Barely a glance, and Yav needed to stop the terrorist with his body. Yav with his hand. Sorry. Yav sacrificed his life for me and Shaya, so we can escape from there. I took Shaya on my hands. I opened the safe room door, and then I ran through Shaya's room, and then I opened an accordion plastic room that you need to, a lousy one. I went through the entrance door and ran away with no shoes. I am disabled in my left leg. I'm limping, or every day I'm walking with a stick. With a cane. A cane. It didn't allow me to run fast, and I had to run when terrorists are shooting me and the baby. I heard the shooting behind me. I was the only one outside. Everyone, they told us to stay in the safe room and don't go out, don't open the door. I heard the shooting on the wall and on the houses around me, and I tried to hide behind trees and kept inside. I was hiding inside bushes because I was not running fast. I had to take cover. Mm-hmm. The terrorists wouldn't leave me alone. They kept hunting us. I heard the voices calling Ta'al, Ta'al, moving more towards me. I tried to knock on the windows of the houses, but I knew that if I would say it shyly, they would hear me and they will come. They will know where I am. I walked through several yards until I found a guarded shed. that was open. The voices of the terrorists got louder, and I got in. I was looking for something sharp. I found a screwdriver and a sharp chisel, and put them inside my pajama pockets. Me and the baby, Shaya, hid behind a washing machine. I took everything I could from inside. I put pots on me and a sandbag of the garden and seeds bags on. We were underneath it, and all this time when I was running and put things on me, Shaya was sleeping. I have no idea how, but she was sleeping. I think it's because Yav taught me to put the pinky finger inside of her mouse if I don't have a pacifier. But little by little, Shaya started waking up hungry, like Yav said, and she started to cry. And one moment, I understand that I heard the sound of the terrorists becoming louder, and I knew that they are now knowing where I was. I realized I have no choice. I have to leave the shed, but the problem is, in order to escape, I had to go through a large lawn, so I can be looked from all of the surrounding houses that I afterwards understand that most of them are dead. Most of our family in the lawn are dead. I realized that there was a reasonable chance that they will succeed in the shooting at us because they can see me and we will die. But then I saw an entrance of a laundry room, and the door was open on the other side of the lawn. So I ran there as fast as I could while I heard the gunshots behind me, and I told myself, Shiley, don't look back, no matter what, don't look back. When I arrived to the open laundry room, a couple of angels named Zoli and Liron called me through the blinds of the window to enter the house. When I entered, the three little children, Inbar, Zohar, and Daniel, cried when they saw a shadow of a large figure like me entering with a hammer. I cried and I told them that I'm so sorry for them letting me in. I said I didn't know where to go. Liron told me, the mother, you did exactly what you should have done. And I was crying, but she was so like a mother or something. But only later I realized that in those moments that Liron was comforting me, she already has received a message from her sister children who told their mommy and daddy are dead, and that they didn't know where their 4-year-old sister Abigail was, a 4-year-old girl who is currently kidnapped in Gaza, along with other mother who also lost her husband like me. And little Abigail was kidnapped along with that mother and 3 of her children. So they think she's probably one of her children. I felt terrible when I entered that house. I already understood that Shaya is like a magnet to the terrorists. Throughout the whole 27 hours that we were besieged in that safe room without food, without water, every time Shaya cried, they shot at us even more. I had to help her not to cry, but the baby was so hungry and she screamed. And I told the family that protecting me so many times that I'm sorry, because they risked their 3 children for me. And every time she screamed Shaya, the shots increased, and every time she didn't, and she was quiet or asleep, it decreased. So it felt like the terrorists are having a competition who would kill the baby. Finally, after 27 hours, we figured out, we managed the army managed to rescue us, but Shaya was already apathic. She was dehydrated, so that in the hospital, they said that she's crying with no tears. I have no tears in these days. I feel like I cry so much. I have no tears like Shaya. Shaya inhaled so much smoke from the burning house next to us that she had to give oxygen in the hospital for 91 hours oxygen, and 29. The one who found the body of my husband, Yav, is my neighbor, Nira. She said Yav did not suffer much. He was shot in the head, and his dreamy blue eyes were still looking at the horizon. She told me that he was so naive that when he ran out after stalling them at the window, he even tried to close the crappy plastic accordion door to block them and to block the accordion door with a trolley. I asked myself how optimistic he was that he actually thought that that accordion door would stop 70 terrorists that were in our house. Inside our home, there were 70 terrorists. But what I could actually understand from Nira is that Yav didn't save us once, he saved us twice. He could have run out of the door because I left the door open, but then he would know he would attract the murderers to us. So he decided to close even that door. And he loved it so much, and he loved us so much, he sacrificed his life for us, not one, twice. And how absurd is that he died near to Shaya's trolley. Our family is broken. It burns inside the soul. I have no energy to talk almost. They slaughtered our kibbutz. They like a flock of sheep, indiscriminately murdered families with children while begging them for mercy. My friend begged them for mercy. Yav's father, Ofer, who now has to bury his son, found out later that his niece, Hadar, Yav's cousin, was also murdered along with her husband and their baby twins. They were a few months old. They left there starving without food and water and with no father and mother anymore. I don't have enough sorrow in my heart to contain all of this. I don't know how I will live without Yav, but I try to tell myself the horrible cliche that with your death you command me life. I try to look at Shaya and remember what we agreed in the safe room, that you're blocking the door and I am with the baby. But I miss him so much. I try to take solace in the fact that at least they didn't manage to burn Shaya like they did to other babies. At least they didn't open my stomach like they did to that pregnant woman when they took her fetus. At least my dog Buckley eventually got rescued, and like not like other dogs that they were shot for fun, for peanuts. I don't know how any human being can do such a horrible things. I don't think they're human, those terrorists. It's cruelty that it's hard for me to grasp. It was a massacre. It's important to understand that it's not a war yet. It was a massacre, like you see in the Holocaust films. When I was in the shed, I told myself, Shali, what will they do in a Holocaust film? This is what I told myself, because me and Yav are filmmakers. And I know that the bodies of my neighbors, for example, was dismembered. And so it was impossible to recognize the body, and they were butchered. My husband was able to recognize. He was lucky, but I feel like, is this luck? I mean, why? Because we were Jews? So what? If we are Jews, it's okay. It's okay to do such thing. It's okay to rape a woman and put her video on Instagram, leaving her tied up to Gaza without clothes. It's okay to kill babies because we're Jews. Does it seem human to kidnap children and torture them and put their videos outside? Does it seem human? The world should see those crimes and be shocked and realize that they cannot condemn. That if they don't condemn it, they will be in the wrong side of the history, because there is no justification to such a murder of civilians, and Hamas must be stopped. I think it needed to be understood that Hamas is not a movement and it's not a government. I know there are good people in Gaza, and I know they don't want Hamas to be in their government. I know, because it's not human I know they are terrorist organization. I saw it in my eyes. And I know that there are kids over there that want to go to just a university and want to live like we do, but they cannot, because it's a terror organization. So that's it. I don't, oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm angry. Sorry. That's it. Thank you.
Charlie, thank you. I know how hard it is. And my heart goes out to you and Renana. Since we heard the foreign minister in the beginning, I will skip the message from the foreign ministry and I'll go back straight to the Q&A. We have a few minutes left for this press conference. Paul.
Renana, Shaili, thank you for sharing your stories, for being so brave. Our hearts go out to you everywhere. I just have one question, perhaps mostly for Renana. What is your hope now in terms of getting the hostages back? Would you prefer if your government waited before invading for a while? What's your advice, if I can presume to ask for your advice on what should happen now?
Unfortunately, they don't. And since there's not even a woman at sight in our government, I'm sorry to say that the motherly voice is not heard there. As far as I'm concerned, they can release all prisoners. They can do anything. They owe me to bring my children back home. They owe us as a community to bring all people that were taken hostage back home. This is civilians just living their lives. You know, the contract with our, as far as I'm concerned, with the government is that we're there to defend the border, and they're supposed to defend us. And as this contract was broken brutally, all I think is that they owe us to bring them back, and not even an hour should pass by now that my children should stay in Gaza. I don't think children should be, as I said, play cards in this war game, and on both sides again. And I expect my government to bring them back now. End of the story. Period. That's what I expect them to do. The way to do it is not for me to say. I'm not an expert. But I hold them responsible. Just as I hold Hamas responsible. Let's not get it wrong. I mean, I just want to say that the IDF puts head cameras on soldiers to make sure that they act and obey the rules of war. And those animals were wearing head cameras so they can film and celebrate murder and rape and kidnap. I'm sorry, but there's no human values behind these people. I don't know what mother raised such children, but I'm sure she should be ashamed of herself. I'm hoping for a better future and a better generation, both in Gaza and in Israel. But I must say that this hope for peace, as far as I'm concerned, is gone. And all I want is my government and your governments to bring my children back home. Now, I hope I gave you an answer.
Thank you, Renana. Naomi?
Thank you very much for taking my question. My name is Naomi O'Leary. I'm with the Irish Times. Thank you so much to Shaili and Renana for sharing these absolutely horrific stories, which I'm sure have horrified everybody who heard them. In my country, Ireland, there's been unanimous condemnation and revulsion at the Hamas attack. My question is for the spokesman for the Foreign Ministry, because alongside that horror and revulsion, there is also deep concern about the Israeli response, which has been articulated by our government and most recently by our president. They distinguish between Hamas and the Palestinian people in general. And yesterday, our president said that he was very concerned that the Israeli response had left the norms, post-war norms about the protection of civilians in tatters, because he said that it was the announcement that 1 million people had to be displaced was an announcement of breaking international law in advance, which is forced displacement is the law he's referring to. So I was just wondering if the Foreign Ministry has a response to those criticisms from Ireland, and if it is, whether you could share it with me. Thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to say that I've heard people in Ireland, I was interviewed there. The first sentence you said is not entirely correct. I'll start by saying that. The second thing is the responsibility for the lives of the people in Gaza lays on Hamas. Israel is trying to do everything in its power in order to prevent civilian casualties. You talked about displaced people. In Israel, we have 500,000 of displaced people, people that live close to the Gaza Strip and people that live close to the northern border. I wish you would mention them too. I wish when the Irish Times talk about what happened in Gaza, we'll put it into context, because we're not just attacking Gaza. It is a result of a barbaric attack by an ISIS-like terror organization. And I wish that every journalist that talks about what happens in Gaza today will say the why, not just the what. Because Israel did not want this war. It was forced upon us. It was forced upon us after a brutal massacre. That the last time we've seen such a massacre was the Holocaust. 1,300 Israelis were butchered. There was a music festival next to the border with thousands of young people celebrating life, music, and love. We found 260 bodies of young Israelis that were massacred, executed by those animals of Hamas. This is the enemy that we're fighting. We have asked civilians from the city of Gaza to leave because we don't want them to get hurt. Hamas is blocking their roads. Hamas is stealing fuel from hospitals and from the international organizations to keep his terror machine alive. Hamas is abusing his own people. As the foreign minister said in the beginning, our goal is to eliminate Hamas control of the Gaza Strip. Once we do that, the first one that we should celebrate it are the civilians in Gaza. I'm sorry to say, we feel bad for every civilian life that is lost. But we have to defend ourselves. And we do that under the international law. Thank you. Next question. Aline.
Hello, thank you for your time. Alin Borcea from Digi24 in Romania. Two questions, actually. Is there any scenario in which the civilians left in northern Gaza would be treated as enemy combatants? And the second question, half of the citizens now living in Gaza have been born since Hamas has taken over. Most likely they are indoctrinated by Hamas, went through Hamas-run schools and learned from Hamas textbook. Are they gonna ever be good neighbors that don't want to kill Jews? Thank you.
I wish I had an answer for your question. I really don't know. I really don't know. The amount of hate that causes thousands of terrorists to burn kids, massacre families in their homes, execute young people that went to a music festival is unacceptable. We will never treat civilians as combatants. Our only goal is the Hamas terrorist and its infrastructure. We're doing more than any country in history to prevent civilian casualties, both in the Israeli side and in the Palestinian side. But one thing that we failed to mention that during the last 11 days, Hamas shot over 6,000 rockets from the Gaza Strip on Israeli civilians. Each and every rocket Hamas launched from the Gaza Strip is a double war crime. First of all, because they are targeting Israeli civilians. And secondly, because they are hiding behind civilians in the Gaza Strip. This is without mentioning the crimes against humanity that they committed. This is not just an Israeli war. This is a war of the Western free world against brutality, animal-like terrorism. And we will win this war. Arton?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Hi, thank you for taking my question. My name is Ayrton Luera from Channel 5 in Peru. So I would like to know what's the situation in Rafah, because the Palestinian ambassador here in Peru, he just announced that Israel is attacking the border between Egypt and Gaza, and it's also not allowing civilians to pass to Egypt. We are very concerned about this because there are two Peruvian families there in Gaza trapped, and they can't leave. So I would like to know what's the situation there. Is there any chance for an humanitarian corridor maybe? And also some countries in the United Nations organization are calling for immediate ceasefire. What's your answer for that? Thank you.
The first thing I'll say, I have no more information about the Rafah crossing. It's not controlled by Israel. We have seen in the past that Hamas is trying to bomb the escape ways of civilians in order to keep them in as human shields next to their terror infrastructure, knowing very well that the international community will not condemn them, unfortunately, like some presidents that were mentioned before, but will condemn Israel for trying to defend itself. I don't think this is the time for a ceasefire. Israel was attacked brutally. It's still being attacked. While we are sitting here in Jerusalem, the cities of Rishon LeZion and Holon that are in the center of Israel were bombed by Hamas. Again, double war crimes, each and every missile. This war will be tough and will be long, but we will have to win this war, because we cannot allow a reality that on the other side of our border there are monsters that are coming to kill us, butcher us, execute us. There is no way Israel could allow it. Nelson.
Thank you very much, sir, for taking my question. My name is Nelson Mandela Mohozam from the New Vision in Uganda. My question is, I wanted to get it clear how many hostages that have been rescued, and those that, basically the number on how many hostages have been rescued.
There were no hostages that have been rescued yet. There are over 200 hostages that are held by those monsters, by the terrorists of Hamas. This is a crime against humanity. It goes against every law of war. They must be released. Israel will do anything in our power in order to do that. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you, Enana and Shaili. As I said before, my heart goes out to you. I really appreciate the time your time in these difficult and sad days, that you're sharing your stories with the world. The world must hear the real thing, what happened there. Because we already see Hamas is trying with its propaganda to lie even about that. I will ask the journalists that are here with us, please don't forget the context. Don't forget what happened in Nir Oz, Nir Am, in Sufa, in all those communities, the border between Israel and the Gaza Strip. People that were butchered in their own homes, that were burnt alive, that were beheaded. Don't forget them when you talk about the situation in Gaza, which I know it's hard. Don't forget the reason why it happens. Thank you, and hopefully we'll see you in the next day with better news than that.